Røde has shaken the firmware update tree and has dropped no less than 24 new features that are about to come to the RØDECaster Pro II. In case you haven't catched it, I will walk you through all of them. Oh, and by the way, these upcoming new features are not a leak or an educated guess. This is coming from Røde directly. I'll show you towards the end of the video where you can find them. It's worth checking out. Some of the new features will apply to musicians, some to podcasters, some specifically to streamers, and there are a number of improvements that will be very useful for all of us. First, the live drum pad mode for smart pads. While you can already today program drum sound samples to be triggered by the smart pads, a dedicated drum pad mode will be more effective, and that is just a step away from building an actual sequencer to the RØDECaster Pro II. Guitar tuner, since you can plug in a guitar to the combo inputs on the RØDECaster Pro II, it just makes sense to add the tuner right into the device, such as guitar effects. Beside the reverb and the delay, guitarists will have the option to add even more effects to their guitar. What these will be remains to be seen, but I would not be surprised if it would turn into a downloadable library of effects. In addition, I would love to see more audio processors, not only guitar effects, as extensions to the signal chain. For instance, a downward expander, a debreather, spectral denoise plugin, a mouth declicker, would all enhance the RØDECaster Pro II to a point where you would not need to add any effects in post, just make the cuts and you're done. To toggle these effects, support for a Bluetooth pedal is planned, which again opens up a lot of possibilities if you will be able to program into more stuff like talkback, for instance. Metronome, which is the clicky thing that helps you keep the rhythm, or if it's more helpful to you, right away a backing track that is integrated and can be overdubbed by what you are playing. Awesome for music rehearsal and recording. Broadcast type faders with 0 dB on top is a nice love letter to the broadcasting crowd out there. The direct upload via Røde Central to podcast platforms, which was almost there in Røde Connect already, but only allowed to export recordings at the level desired by specific platforms, is about to make its way into Røde Central. Not sure if I would want to upload anything without editing, but hey, why not? Some seasoned podcasters surely can be ready already right away. Talkback via USB connection is a really clever addition, as then you do not need to occupy the first mic input for Talkback, but you could use it from a USB mic connected to the computer instead, or even just the computer's built-in microphone, since Talkback does not make it into the recording anyway. All what matters is that it is heard. It does not have to be of stellar audio quality. Cough button is a temporary mute, which is really handy, such as triggering keyboard shortcuts via smart pads, which makes the RØDECaster Pro II very useful even if you are not recording with it, as you can add editing shortcuts to the smart pads. It wouldn't make the RØDECaster Pro II an Elgato Stream Deck right away, as it is not a macro pad feature, although possibilities are endless, but rather the Logitech's MX Master 3 mouse, where you can program keyboard shortcuts to some extra buttons. Clever idea. Additional virtual devices, faders, make the RØDECaster Pro II finally on par in this respect with the Elgato Wavelink or Go XLR softwares, but without the need to actually install a software where you would be able to put your music, browser, game audio and whatnot to separate channels, even if they come from the same computer. For many streamers, this and the lack of submixes are the only roadblocks that keep them from using the RØDECaster Pro II. More on the submixes in a minute. Gaming console connectivity to eliminate the need to add an extra computer in between your gaming console and the RØDECaster Pro II just to be able to input game audio into your stream mix. Configuring processing chain order if you want to swap around the voice processing components, like you want to add the noise gate first, EQ second, then a compressor. Nothing will stand in your way. Storing shows internally instead of storing them on the SD card makes them just a touch more secure. One-way talkback is a very niche request, but for those who need it, it is of crucial importance. And this way, you can choose if you want to establish a talkback channel where none of this back-channel conversation will make it into recording, or if you just want the producer's instructions coming through talkback not to be recorded, but do not want to interrupt the recording of the other channels. My absolute favorite new feature will be the support for on-air lamps via Bluetooth. I have mentioned it in my 2022 podcasting predictions, which is fun to watch in August, what became reality and what is potentially still to be expected. Pressing record on the RØDECaster Pro would send a Bluetooth trigger to a connected on-air lamp that is outside your audio room and would then light up indicating that you're busy recording. Really nice. Can't wait for it, but especially for the accessories related to it. I hope it will be a magnetized on-air lamp that you can just stick to any door without drilling. LUFS monitoring, where the master compeller would be able to meet a target LUFS level, makes your recording really consistent in terms of loudness. LUFS means loudness units full scale, and saves you at least one extra step in post. I loved it that Rode Connect could export recordings at a desired loudness level. So can Rode Central for the RØDECaster Pro II, but this way you can right away create your recording at a desired loudness level. But not only that, the word compeller comes together from compressor, leveler, and limiter, and what it does is that it intelligently manages the dynamic range of the audio. It evens out the varying levels of the audio without making itself noticed. If you can set it to a desired loudness level, it can make the whole recording sound right the first time. It is a master compressor on steroids, basically. Sound pack library? Why not? I wonder if Rode will actually want to monetize on that. I'm guessing they will at some point, although I don't want to give Rode ideas in this direction. This way you could acquire royalty-free, cool sounds and jingles for your RØDECaster Pro, not only for the 2, as this could also easily apply to the original version. Custom show logos would be the most easy to implement feature, but it would make all the difference when you can actually make it truly your own by personalizing your setup with your logo. All podcasts have an art cover. As for audio podcasts, that is the only visual element to the package, and everyone would like to see their own rather than a stock image. This feature could turn out to be more attractive than it initially sounds. Custom SmartPad icons will prove especially useful with effects, even more so if there will be additional effects added, as currently it only shows the letters FX over the soundpad icon in different colors. It will help usability if they could have their custom icons. They would be more easy and quick to recognize. Now we have arrived to the biggest and probably most important updates. Before we get to them, let me know in the comments what you think of these upcoming features. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video so far, and subscribe for more of this kind of content. So we have 3 to go. Next up is USB mic connectivity. Of course, so far you could also connect your USB mics through the headphone ports if they had one, and the 3.5mm to XLR adapter, but that output on the microphone was not meant to have the most pristine audio quality, whereas the USB port was. With this, you could simply plug your USB mic into a free USB port on the RØDECaster Pro II and thus have as many as 5 mic inputs instead of 4, or even 6 if you choose to operate the RØDECaster Pro II disconnected from computer and thereby leaving both USB ports free. Combine it with the TalkBack via USB connectivity feature and it all comes nicely together. For the next upgrade, let's remember firmware 1.0.7, which enabled custom output routing for the digital outputs. I have explained it along with USB Mix Minus in another video, where I actually said that it would be great to see custom output routing for the analog outputs as well. So for the headphone ports and for the main monitor outputs, which is exactly what Rode is working on. And that opens up an array of new possibilities for musicians and podcasters, but we'll go into details when the feature actually becomes available. Especially for streamers, however, but also for musicians, another feature is really important, and that is submixes. Submixes are when you want to play certain channels at a different volume for certain outputs, like when you want to hear game audio way louder than your own voice in your headphones, but for your stream channel, your voice needs to be much louder. Currently, you cannot do this as the RØDECaster Pro II does not allow you to make submixes. You can exclude entire channels from an output, that's the custom output routing, but if you do not want to exclude anything, just make certain channels in the output a little quieter or louder. That is what submixes are for. Now, I don't know how Rode plans to implement them, and I'm neither on the technical team of Rode nor on the design team, so all in all I'm not on the payroll. Nonetheless, I have already created a UI mockup for how the custom routing and the submixes could look like. As it was to be expected, Rode has implemented the idea in a much more friendly user interface, so building on that, I have rethought how the submixes feature could look like based on their design language. Above all, the most obvious home for it would be in the output settings, and I would actually leave it with the routing submenu, which looks like this in firmware 1.0.7. For each digital output channel, they are the RØDECaster Pro II main and chat for the USB 1 port, and RØDECaster Pro II secondary for the USB 2 port, plus the Bluetooth channel. You can select if you want to send out the main mix, so all inputs, a mix minus setup, which takes out the own channel's audio from the mix that goes out from that channel, thereby eliminating feedback loop for voice chats with remote guests. And finally, you have the custom option, where you can manually deselect any of the available audio sources on a certain output channel, which then will not be heard on that output. This is all great and much appreciated. However, for musicians and streamers, it is important to be able to not only select what to send out, but also to adjust the sound levels of each outgoing channel, including the analog outputs, which we discussed in the previous part. For example, to make the bass channel louder for the drummer, or to turn down the game audio for the Discord chat. This is called submixes, as you are changing the outgoing sound levels on a certain output channel versus the main mix, which you are regulating with the physical and virtual faders on the main screen. It would be just logical to add the submix option right here beside the custom routing, which then would display all channels, this time with the volume meters, which then you could change using the fader, the rotary dial, or on screen. You could scroll through all available outputs and set the sound levels as you desire. However, as soon as you go back to the main screen, you would of course never know whether or not there are submixes set up, so you will need an indication of that, like with a gray secondary indicator that shows that there is a submix set up for a specific channel. And since there is enough screen real estate, even if all 9 possible channels are displayed, it can be right away indicated which output submix has an alternate level for a particular channel. Of course, it can be the case that there are more of them, and it may get a little crowded after a while, so I would only display those which are changed versus the main mix. Using red outlined indicators, you could right away also indicate if there's some custom routing ongoing, like in the case of USB 1 and the Bluetooth channel. Both of them have their own input excluded from what is going out from them. This is the mix minus setup, by the way. If you want to know more about that, I have a video specifically explaining it. And there you go. These are the new features that are on the roadmap. No one ever has used this pun before, I'm sure, for the RØDECaster Pro II. You can find it yourself if you click on Røde's video. I have a link in the description for where you can find it. Go to the video and go into the description and click on the link that's included in there. This leads you to a survey where you can not only see all these planned new features, but also vote for them, as this way Røde can prioritize where they actually put it on the product development roadmap, which for the moment lacks the time information, so I don't know when these features will land and in which sequence. Both of them depend to a large extent on our votes, which is amazing. Not to mention that you can win, which is always a fun opportunity. If you want to know more about the RØDECaster Pro II, I have a playlist about it on this channel, and if you are interested in podcast recording and gear, you are absolutely on the right place, as this channel is all about that. Bye for now.